Joining me now, Stacey Abrams, the former Georgia gubernatorial candidate and the founder of Fair Fight Action. Ms. Abrams, good to see you and welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Let's talk about the strategy heading into these two runoffs. There's nothing to celebrate yet in Georgia. We've got the presidential election largely behind us, but for a certification and an audit issue. But there are two very serious Senate races that are going to happen on January 5th. What's the strategy?
Well, first, we have to celebrate what we accomplished in November, because that's one of the reasons we have a pathway in January. We have to remind voters that they can start again with absentee ballots. We won absentee ballots in the November election. We can win it again in January. But we also have to remind voters what the Senate does and why it's so critical that Jon Ossoff and Raphael Warnock represent the state of Georgia and help determine the future of our country. We know that the strategy is, one, to educate voters about the Senate races and about our two candidates. Two, to raise the level of resources that we need to reach pockets of the state of Georgia that still don't believe in their power to be heard. Three, we need to do the work of making sure that we protect the right to vote. We are watching the two sitting senators do their best to create disinformation and to disenfranchise voters. And even they're willing to attack their own people to create the obfuscation that you spoke of earlier about who should be able to win. And so our responsibility is to educate those voters, mobilize those voters, and then protect their right to vote so that we can get to victory in January.
So your strategy couldn't be further away apart from what the Republicans have done in this election. Your organization registered as many as 800,000 voters in the past 2 years. Data from the Washington Post shows that only 2% of Georgia's voting population is not registered to vote, which means most of where you are going to be able to make gains is with people who are already registered but maybe didn't vote. Your whole thing is about getting people who otherwise might not be voting to vote. What's your plan for that? I think the word you use is people who don't, they're not convinced of their ability to be heard.
Well, let's be clear. The 800,000 number is a compilation of efforts across the state to make certain that voters who typically were not included in the franchise believe that they should be included and registered to do so. And we have to remember that this is work that not only happened over the last 2 years, but there's been a 10-year effort to register hundreds of thousands of people of color in the state of Georgia. But now that they are registered, we have to remember there are new people who are eligible to register, folks who are turning 18, and whoever is still in that 2% who needs to be talked to, we're going to do that work. But we're also going to do the work of reminding people about why the Senate matters. We spend billions of dollars as a nation explaining the importance of the presidency. We've got to do the deep work of explaining the utility and the effectiveness of a U.S. Senate. Not everyone knows that Mitch McConnell has been the reason they haven't received unemployment benefits, that he's the block against most of the resources and the support that we need to survive COVID. And so we've got to do that work, but we've also got to do the work of explaining that David Perdue and Kelly Loeffler have done nothing to serve the people of Georgia, have only worked to profit themselves, and that Jon Ossoff and Raphael Warnock are men of courage, men of character, and men who are ready to get to work on behalf of all Georgians.